Hello and welcome to another episode of Police Beat. I'm Officer Ben Tobias, the spokesman for the Gainesville Police Department. Joining me again this month is Sergeant Sharna Sen. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Ben. It's great to be back. We thank all of our viewers for tuning in to a very special episode of Police Beat. For over 3 years, the Gainesville Police Department has been working without a headquarters. We have been spread out in satellite offices all over town while our new headquarters was under construction. In this episode, we're going to share the finished headquarters with you and show you how we got there.
In December of 2010, the old Gainesville Police Headquarters was emptied to undergo a renovation. The original structure was built in 1952 and had previously undergone countless renovations. Once the building was empty and inspected, the decision was made to completely demolish the existing headquarters to build a new one. The building sat empty for almost 2 years until demolition could begin. In January 2013, the process began. Let's look back at some of the footage of the start of the project.
I took over the project in mid-2010. Since that time, we've discovered some things that have changed the scope of what we had intended to do. As a result of some recommendations that we received from construction analysis and different companies, we ended up proposing a new facilities. The commission graciously agreed to fund a new facility as opposed to a renovation to the old facility. This past facility here, GPD Headquarters, started in 1952, and basically every 10 years until '83 had something done to it. There was a new addition. So it had different levels of construction, different techniques, different materials. And it really got to the point where we had to do something different. We started from ground zero here by taking everything down.
Demolition went off without a hitch. No major issues with the neighbors. We did have 4 neighborhood workshops before we even got started, so I think the word was out beforehand. I know Captain Scott and our team went around to the neighbors and let them know before we started demolition.
We're very environmentally conscious about this whole project. The commission demands, our citizens demand that.
Part of the demolition isn't just tearing the building down and taking it to a landfill. This project is a LEED certified project, and part of that is recycling as much of the construction and demolition debris as possible.
So the materials here, the vast majority of these materials are going to be recycled. So the recycling procedures take longer. They have to actually separate the concrete from the metal. They literally sorted that stuff out and crushed the concrete to get some of the steel out.
LEED is leadership in engineering and environmental design. So it's really a holistic approach. It's a certification process for the building itself, and it looks at it starting with design all the way through construction. It really is a neat program that at the end of the day you have metrics that measure how well you did on a rating scale. We're targeting a LEED silver. We're going to shoot for gold. Obviously we'll try and maximize as many points as we can get and strive for gold.
And this project is built upon that. I mean, the entire project, everything here, the bricks, everything that were taken away from this site as best as possible that could be recycled was recycled. We
track all of the loads that leave the site, whether they go to a landfill or whether they go to a recycling facility. Every load is weighed, and we track it by weight of the percentage of the overall project, how much of the construction and demolition debris is diverted from landfills. So it's keeping the trash out of the landfills. Gilbane has a company-wide policy that we target a 75% diversion or recycling percentage on all of our projects, whether it's a LEED project or not. Cross Construction Services was the demolition contractor who was taking the building down and in charge of all the recycling efforts on site. It really went extremely smooth, the whole demolition process. And you want to look at it and with safety in mind first and foremost, and that's the exact reason why you do take a kind of a more surgical approach to it, is to make sure that the building comes down and that none of the workers or public in the surrounding areas are all kept safe at all times. We had a few challenges with the structure and how to isolate certain parts of the structure so that it's not just just taking a bulldozer and knocking it down. You do have to take a look at the structure itself and do it in a safe manner. We did install protection along 6th Street for pedestrian and vehicular traffic. We closed a lane to make sure that when we were taking that west side of the building down that we weren't in danger of having any materials fall outside the construction fence. We used water hoses to keep the dust down, and that seemed to work really well. We also took some precautionary air monitoring during demolition to just make sure that the pollution levels were okay. At the end of the day, the building it's been constructed, environmentally sustainable construction practices. The indoor air quality is better for the occupants, and it's a more sustainable way of doing construction than we used to do in the old days.
Hope to put a foundation within the next couple of weeks and get that started. Once we get the foundation of the building completed, we'll go from there and start moving it up. Commissioner's review of the project, they thought it would be better for us to have the facility located on the corner. Thought that would be a better presentation for the community. The facility will be on the corner of 6th Street and 8th Avenue. I think this is a time that folks that have been here for some time and saw the building change. There are people that predate me here that were here in '83 when they added to the building last. And now some of these people are coming back, or people like the chief who worked here when it was added on to, and to see something new occur, to see that building demolished, it was a bittersweet moment. You're happy to see that we have an investment in our department with new facilities, but there's some sadness in that. There are memories attached to the old facility, very touching. That's where I came in, that's where I was sworn in. It's gone now. And it's a new day. It's just like a new sunrise occurring. It's a new day. And as opposed to dwelling in the past, and we really are looking forward to the future. We're looking forward to having a chance to put our stamp on the new facilities. And it is a facility that's designed to incorporate community involvement.
Well, yeah, it's something that we were able to coordinate before we started the demolition process was really neat. We were able to allow the City of Gainesville and Alachua County Fire Departments to come out and do some training exercises on the building before we started to tear it down, and that was really neat for them to be able to do some real-life extractions and just some hands-on training that they normally wouldn't have the opportunity to do.
We actually have a room that we call the community room. It's intended to invite citizens in and let them have meetings there. It's really intended to be part of the community and not set aside. We won't have any huge fences up to separate us from the community because we work for the community. Those are our employers. It will give a new doorway into this community. It should be an enhancement, and it's something the commission felt pretty strong about, and we agree with it. We anticipate that we will complete this about a year from now, and get our family back together, so to speak.
Once the demolition was completed, the next 15 months would bring a flurry of construction activity that concluded in April of this year. After the break, we'll fast forward to the building's opening day.
Burglaries and robberies have become serious concerns in our city. This crime is referred to as a crime of opportunity because most criminals look for the path of least resistance. Protect yourself. Don't become a target. Lock your doors and keep expensive items out of plain view.
For crime prevention information, go to GainesvillePD.org or call the Gainesville Police Department's Crime Prevention Office at 334-2479. Protect yourself. Don't become a target.
On May 3rd of this year, the Gainesville community finally got to visit the new Gainesville Police Headquarters that they had seen being built. Even though it was a rainy morning, hundreds of citizens, including GPD retirees, flocked to the new headquarters to attend the dedication ceremony. After the ceremony was complete, we offered public tours of the new facility. If you couldn't make it yourself, don't worry. We'll walk you through it right now.
The dedication ceremony that we had, we initially scheduled for outside. We anticipated that we would have 350 people. We knew that if it rained, we expected the attendance to be a little lower, maybe 125 people. But even with the rain, we ended up having a crowd over 200 folks that showed up for that. In fact, it may have been closer to 300 by the time you count the folks that came up later on. We were pleasantly surprised by that. That was the first actual use of this facility, this room, and it was packed. It felt good to see people that had worked for the Gainesville Police Department many years ago that returned to see how we had advanced and how we recognized some of their efforts in the past. I saw quite a few retirees, and they were very prideful in what we had done. And again, this is the accomplishment that was built on the foundation that they laid. And so they showed up and really expressed a lot of, gave us a lot of compliments for what we had done and saw the logic in how we designed the building and how we moved it forward to make it more accessible to the public. This is the supervisor's office. This is the work squad office for them. 2 other supervisor offices here. So feel free to walk through. I'll stand over here, let you take a look at them. We gave tours, the tours of the facility in the different areas. We also took folks out to the physical training center and showed them how the physical training was set up. We incorporated quite a bit of technology in this building. One of the things that we upgraded right off the bat was the security of the building. We have access control to allow different levels of security, access to different levels of the building. We have closed circuit cameras that monitor the entire campus. And we also have cameras that are also incorporated into our interview rooms, which allow us to constantly monitor. They're always recorded in some form or fashion. And it also allows us to monitor the activity in those rooms, and not just for the officer's sake, but also for the sake of the suspect that might be interviewed in those rooms. We have those monitoring capabilities at the front desk, and there's a display up there where the officers that are working the front desk can see it, but also any supervisor can tap into the system and actually see what's going on in an interview room. We have the Emergency Operations Center here for the City of Gainesville. That room allows us to coordinate our activities for the entire city, Public Works, Fire, Police, any other entity that might be needed. We can track where officers are. We can also show, monitor the cameras, the traffic cameras throughout the city. We can put up action plans, monitor the weather, tap into the statewide emergency operations system. All of that can be controlled from that room. And because this has been such a long process, I feel a sense of relief that we are finally in a home where we can see one another, work with one another, speak with one another, see a change in the way that we interact with one another. We had to adapt to being separated and learn how to communicate effectively that way. Now we have a reacclimation period where we have to get used to being in close quarters again. And it's a happy thing, it's a good thing that we are together and able to talk with one another, exchange information a little more readily than we had in the past. Heroes Hall is dedicated to the officers that have fallen in the line of duty. We have 4 officers that have done that since the inception of the Gainesville Police Department. Officer Jackson Pinkston Bennett. Officer Bennett was out, quite frankly, patrolling, trying to capture a dog when the dog bit him, and he contracted rabies as a result and died. It was Officer Shannon Stevenson. Officer Shannon Stevenson died in 1980. He was killed as a result of friendly fire during an investigation, I think, for a burglary. The next 2 officers, quite frankly, I worked with, Officer Scott Baird, was killed as a result of exiting his car to remove a batting cage behind the GHS High School. And as a result, the car that was coming over the hill didn't see him, struck the cage, and it subsequently killed Officer Baird. And that was followed by a very close friend, Lieutenant Corey Dahlem, who started just a few months before I did. Officer Dahlem was killed in 2007. He too was struck by a vehicle. He was struck by a drunk driver that killed him during the celebration for the national championship in basketball. This is the room that the citizen sees more than any other room in the building. We thought it was important that there be an understanding of the sacrifice that these officers have given, but also the sacrifice that each officer that wears this uniform is prepared to give. And when we walk in the morning, we don't know if we don't have any assurances that we're going to leave that evening. We would like to think that all of our folks will do that, but when you put the uniform on, you take that oath. That oath is dedicated to working to protect and serve the citizens of Gainesville. We did not raise the flag here until we had the ceremony. It's similar to opening a military installation, that the first time you do it, there's actually a procedure that we went through.
8-0, Alloy, colors.
We have several military personnel that are assigned here or that work here at the police department, and the honor guard performed the ceremony and raised the flag for the first time here at the police department. I want to take this opportunity to thank, quite frankly, several folks that supported us during our transition. And during this time that we've been displaced, we've had strong support from the Gainesville Health and Fitness Facility. Mr. Joe Cerulli authorized all of our personnel to go to his facility and work out at no cost to the officer or the city. That was something that lasted for 3 years. Initially it was going to be a year, and it was 3 years. Never heard any complaints, and always graciously extended the use of the facility without any serious prepping at all. We also had Cafe C, who we inconvenienced, quite frankly, with our parking situation. And we worked with them quite a bit, and they decided that they wanted to provide a meal to the employees here to open the facility. So the Thursday before the ceremony, we had a meal prepared and presented by Cafe C to all 3 shifts that work here. And also I'd like to show some appreciation to Mr. Joel Islam of Florida Food Service, who on the day of the opening provided food for not just the employees, but for the citizens that showed up for the dedication ceremony. And again, they called us, just like Cafe C did. Cafe C called us. Mr. Islam called and said, hey, I know you guys are going to be opening the facility. We'd like to do something for you. It was not solicited at all, and we really appreciate the partnership that we have developed in the city of Gainesville.
Even if you couldn't make it to the grand opening ceremony, we hope that the last segment gave you a sense of excitement from that day. After the break, we'll take a more in-depth look at the building away from the crowd.
I mean, you don't think it's gonna happen.
I was just thinking like, wow, I could have been killed.
If I can help it, you're not gonna like die when I'm driving.
Now that the activity of the grand opening has come and gone, GPD officers and staff are starting to settle into their new home. It has been quite a while since the majority of our folks have been under one roof. Let's take a look at some of the day-to-day operations in the new headquarters. When citizens come into the front desk area of the Gainesville Police Department, they're usually greeted by an officer and a window, but few people get to see what actually goes on behind that desk. The front desk area is the connection point for the Gainesville Police Department and the citizens that walk through our doors. When citizens are looking for information, when they're looking for reports, or when they're looking to talk to an officer, they're going to first speak to the person that's behind the front desk.
All right. And they'll give you a call when it's ready.
All right.
Okay? You're welcome.
Each week, Gainesville Police command staff, officers, and detectives get together for what's called tactical briefing. It's a place where officers, detectives, and command staff share information from division to division, review crime trends, and strategize for the operations on the upcoming week.
The current 7-day, what we're looking at, the masks represent some of the robberies, which we'll highlight today. I think the robberies kept days and evening shifts pretty busy over the weekend. And some of the burglaries, there's some good results, and then overall our numbers declined at the end of this presentation. I'll discuss this with you, but there was a lot of good work. And again, pirate is something we're going to continue to focus on. I know Anthony's kind of taken the lead on some of those activities with Lieutenant Stout, and we'll discuss that. But again, you look, we got hit pretty hard last week on our residentials. We had the 20, and we reduced those to 10. I know the days and midnight shift had pretty good numbers. Evenings was very, very busy the last 7 days, I can tell you.
Being that representatives from each department are in the same room each week means that we're easily able to determine our strategies and crime reduction techniques for the upcoming week.
Area where the original incident happened, and he's looking to get some better video from, I think there's a tag agency right next to where the robbery happens.
Let's take a trip downstairs to the first floor where we see the Chief Atkins Warren briefing room. The briefing room is the patrol briefing room and roll call area. The patrol officers and their supervisors come together each day in this room to determine how best to deploy our resources to the citizens that we serve. During these briefings, a roll call is conducted to make sure that all officers are accounted for the day.
Major Clark.
Here.
Propane. Medic. Bobby White. Here. Cabot.
And also information is passed down from detectives and other shifts to make sure that our resources are deployed in the most effective manner possible.
Retired guy. That was in the morning. This one happened at 03:30 hours, but they think it's possibly related. So if you're down there, just ask around. There might be a phone.
1000 Northeast 5th Place, Florida, Echo 116 Victor Foxtrot. It's on a blue Mazda.
How you doing, sir? You have your license, registration, and insurance?
Almost every encounter between a Gainesville police officer and a citizen is documented in one way or another. This paperwork is then delivered to our records division, where written and electronic reports are gathered and sent to our records division for processing. Our records technicians are responsible for managing hundreds of pieces of information which have to be readily accessible under Florida's public records law. The Gainesville Police Department is a very open and transparent agency, and thus we provide these reports to citizens upon their request.
You have a great day as well. Bye-bye. Miss Carolyn?
Yes.
Okay, here's a background check.
Okay.
And this is the person they want it done on.
Okay.
And this is the information that they're requesting. So whenever you get done, they'd like for you to contact them by just calling them and let them know
Okay.
it's ready, and they can come and pick it up.
All right.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.
Heading back upstairs, we find ourselves in front of the Captain R.B. Ward Detective Briefing Room. Each morning, detectives with the Criminal Investigations Bureau meet to discuss the cases that happened in the past 24 hours, to assign these cases to detectives and figure out the strategies that will most easily solve crimes. The advantage of having all investigators meet each morning is to share information between detectives, because sometimes leads from their cases may be able to help out other detectives with cases they're assigned.
Because of I listened to the messages on the phone.
Everything that we do in the Gainesville Police Headquarters is dedicated to serving and protecting the citizens of Gainesville.
That's it for this special episode of Police Beat. There are so many people to thank for the new headquarters being completed that it would take an entire episode of Police Beat to thank them all by name.
So to anyone that had any part of the project, no matter how large or small, we offer a giant thank you for your hard work. As usual, be sure to find us online on Facebook or Twitter, or by visiting GainesvillePD.org, where you can watch previous episodes of the show.
We always value your comments on the show and encourage you to contact us with any suggestions you may have for future topics. We have aired viewer suggestions in the past, so please let us know what you would like to see on the show.
Join us again next time for another episode of Police Beat.
Come with me.
Yo, what are you doing?
Nothing, man. Just having a little fun.
Come on, man. She's drunk.
We're just a little bit buzzed, that's all.
She's more than just a little buzzed, dude. Look, she can't even stand up.
It's not a big deal.
Come on, let's just get her out of here. You'll thank me later.
Dude, come on.